Hello, OpAmp here with Lockpickers United, and what I have for you today is a tutorial on creating a practice lock with threaded plug chambers. This can be really useful when learning or when teaching because you can progressively pin the lock very easily without having to completely gut it every time. You can start with one, then progress to two or more just by taking out these threaded set screws, putting in a pin stack, or removing a pin stack. It's great when you're first learning security pins because you can throw in different types of security pins in different positions and change bitting very easily even when you don't have a key. So this is not a particularly hard thing to produce. You need a few tools, which I'll show you in a moment, a little bit of patience, and we'll get it done. Okay, so I've got my basic tools assembled here. Of course, got our set screws, our hex wrench, a tap that is appropriately sized for those screws, a tap wrench, and of course we have our lock that we're going to be using. So the first thing that I'm going to do is gut this lock. So either take out the pins by sort of the traditional turn, put a follower in, or what we need to do is actually take off this cap, and this cap is what's covering all the chambers. So if you don't have equipment for gutting the lock, you could also just peel off this little piece, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to punch off this little plate here, see if I can get you a good angle of that. But basically I'm going to take like a sharp tool. I'm going to come right in the corner of it. I'm just going to give it a few taps, and you can see that plate is starting to peel off there. And now you can use like a little punch. I just have this sort of scribe. It's really not the appropriate tool for it, but it does work. And you can see that the plate is starting to come off. So at this point, what you want to do is get your pinning tray in here. And I already have that clip off from before. And what I'm going to do is take a little screwdriver, and I'm just going to, excuse me. You take a little screwdriver, I'm just going to put it right in the side here, and I'm just going to peel that plate off. And you can see already that you can see the springs below it. And I'll keep going, peeling that plate. And be careful because these springs could sort of spring out on you. And also be careful because this is sort of a sharp piece of metal. But you can see that I've got that off now. And you can see all your springs in your chambers. Now, you can dump this out in order, or you can dump this out not in order. It's really up to you. I'm just going to sort of dump everything out. And so now we've got a lock with the chamber is empty. And actually, if I wanted to right now, I could just pull that right out. So what we're going to do next is get this set up in a vise, and we're actually going to thread all of these, the tops of all these chambers here. Okay, so I'm set up in my vise here. This is just the usual vise that I use for picking. You could also use a bench vise or anything like that, really. And I have my appropriately sized tap right here, and that's just going to go right into our hole there in the lock. Now, technique for tapping is sort of important. What happens is this part of the tap cuts, and this little channel here actually clears out all those little chips that you're going to be making from the cutting action. And so what happens is you want to turn your tap a few turns, and then you're going to back off, because what happens is all those chips can accumulate in here and sort of start to clog it up, and you run the risk of either messing up your threads or even in some cases in a hard material breaking your tap. So sometimes you'll hear people say you're clearing the chips, and that's what you're doing. You're just going to back off, break, and clear those chips. The other thing is you can see my handle here. This is a holder for a small taps. There are other style holders. You really want to try to balance your pressure and keep your pressure right in the center so that your tap is nice and straight and it's not wobbling around. I'm just going to be using just a little bit of like 3-in-1 oil. This is not the best thing for cutting. This is also a thing that people probably have around. I just want to show you that it does work fine. Afterwards, you can, of course, wash this out with whatever you'd like in terms of getting that oil out of your lock. If you have thread cutting oil, go for it. So all I'm going to do is take a little bit of that oil and I'm just going to put it right on the tap. Oh, sorry, you couldn't really see that. And then I'm going to take my tap and put it right at the top of that chamber. And really what I want to be doing here is, we can get you a better angle. I want to make sure that I'm holding this straight in both axes to that hole so it goes in nice and straight. I like to hold either the shaft or even right down here to begin with. And I'm just going to very lightly turn. I'm not even really applying much pressure right now. And I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it is starting to cut. And I'm just going to keep turning here. And I'll give you a little clearance so you can actually see what's going on here. And now I will say that I have done this sort of, I guess you might call it power tapped, where I've actually used a like a drill driver, but that's sort of a more advanced skill. So now I'm feeling, I've gone about 2 turns and I'm feeling a little resistance. So what I'm going to do is turn back, break that chip, and actually you heard a little click, and now I'm going to keep going. Now I don't want to go too deep, so I'm actually going to come out now because I don't want to thread that whole chamber unless that's the goal because this is a challenge lock or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blow out with some compressed air or even your mouth if that's all you have. I'm just going to sort of blow out that chamber so it's a little bit cleaner, and then I'm going to take one of my little set screws here, and I'm just going to try it and see how it feels in that chamber. And like I said, we don't want to go too deep because you know, we're not threading that chamber for a challenge lock. We're just threading it so that we can easily replace. So now you can see I've gone not too far, although this fits very tightly. And remember, you also don't want to go so far in, like I said, that you're interfering with something. So that's not too bad. Let me show you my depth right now. But I think I might want to go a little bit more with that. One thing that you can do, if you have a piece of tape, you can actually take that, wrap it around your tap sort of as a guide for depth. And if you look at the tap versus the size of that set screw, let me get that out for you. You'll see right here sort of your depth goal. So if you can eyeball that, great. If not, put a little piece of tape over there as a guide for you. And remember that the tip of the tap, you're really not cutting the full width of that thread because it sort of has to ease in there. So let me go and thread that a little bit deeper, and then we'll give it another little try. And like I said, better to do a little bit too little than too much. And so now I'm coming in here, and I'm not even really cutting in. You see how much I've been turning because now I'm really engaging that full depth thread. So I'm going to turn a little bit more. Now I can feel that I'm cutting again. So I'm cutting a few more threads. Again, backing off to break that chip. Cutting a few more threads, backing off to break that chip. Like I said, I'm just putting just a little bit of cutting oil on here. You could even do it without oil, to be honest with you, if you're real careful and you get sort of in tune with the feeling of when that chip needs to be broken. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to turn it and see how that feels. And that feels pretty good to me. Still sticking out a little bit, but like I said, I don't want to be taking up that whole chamber height. Now, if you wanted to do that challenge lock, thread the whole thing through. You could even go ahead and thread the holes in the plug here too. So give me a couple of minutes and I'm going to thread up the rest of these and you'll see what that looks like. Okay, so I've got everything drilled, tapped, and you can see we've got all our screws in here, and we're pretty much ready to reassemble this lock. I'm going to give it a real good blowout with some compressed air, probably off camera so I don't kill your ears, and I'll be back in a second and I'll show you how you can sort of load up this lock and get it back in service. Okay, so I'm all set up to reassemble the lock here. You can see I got the core back in, the plug, and got my nice threading there. No pins yet, so we're just spinning freely. So I'm just going to pin this up how it came from the factory, and start with the pin stack for 1. And I'm just going to put in the driver and the key pin, and you can see here it's now all locked up and won't turn, but if I put the key in, it will. So that's great. And I'm going to just put that spring in right after him, right there. And I'll get one of these set screws and our wrench, and I'm just going to secure that right here. Try not to block the camera for you. So I'm just going to secure that, and not too tight there, just snug is fine, because remember, you want to be taking this apart. And now you'll see we're locked up. Key in, works very smoothly. Key out, not a problem. I'm just going to go ahead and pin up the rest of these chambers. Like I said before, this is really great for when you want to progressively pin, working on some sort of challenge lock where maybe you have a funky pin and you're afraid it might get caught in like serrations or something. It's a little bit easier because instead of having to try to shim something or get it out, open up the top, pop it out. So it's great for like prototyping challenge locks and pins. And then just for progressively pinning, or, you know, if you want to switch up just one pin stack, you don't have to go through taking off a clip and you know, gutting up to wherever that is. So this can be pretty helpful, and it's great for teaching beginners because you start out with maybe 1 or 2 pins and they kind of master that, and then you go to more and more. And this can be done with all sorts of different locks. This one just, like I said, gives you a little more wiggle room because you do have that extra meat there. If for some reason it went bad, size up, you know, make a little bit of a hole, you know, drill it out 1 size bigger, tap it 1 size bigger, you're in business. You got that meat on the sides. Key and knob cylinder where it's very skinny, you sort of just get 1 chance at that. And then Euro locks, you know, some of those actually have sort of plugged up holes. So you'll either need to like drill and pull that plug or just drill the plug in general. But it can all be done. So I hope this has been informative and helpful for you. Any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them below. And thank you. This has been OpAmp with Lockpickers United. Thanks for watching.
Hey everybody, Diggs here for Lockpickers United, and I'm popping in at the end of this Fabrication Friday video to announce our first contest and some giveaways. So first, the contest. The prize of the contest is going to be this silver bullet here, which if you haven't heard of it yet, I'm sure that you will soon. This is one of the best disc detainer picks that has ever been made, and I've been watching people use it to tear through some awesome locks lately. The price tag on one of these tools is a little over $200, and so it's a pretty big win. It's very well made, and it has graduations for both depth and rotation, which will help guide you through disc detainer locks and help you to pick them a little more easily. Most of the picks on the market are very poorly made. They come out of China, and you have to do heavy modification on them before you can even use them. This thing out of the box will pick an alloy or two. So first, the most important details. The competition is going to run from today, 21 June 2019, until 21 July 2019. So you have a little bit of time to get this done, and it is a bit of a challenge. What you need to do to enter is film yourself picking and gutting in one continuous take a purple belt lock or better. And what I mean by better is a higher belt ranking or a high security lock that may not be in the rankings. So if you're not familiar with belt rankings, you can find them on the r/lockpicking subreddit. There's a link in the description. If you don't have any of those locks, but you do have some high security locks, those will likely qualify as well. If you're unsure, you can email us at unitedlockpickers@gmail.com and we'll let you know whether or not your lock qualifies. Once you film your pick and gut, all you need to do is send us the link at unitedlockpickers@gmail.com and we'll watch it. The preferred host would be YouTube, but you can use other sites. We'll watch each video and make sure that the lock qualifies and that it hasn't been modified, and then each of those entries will be added to a pool. And out of the pool, one winner will be randomly selected. Now you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not capable of that. I can't pull that off. I'm not even going to try. I challenge you to try and move past that and give it a try anyway. There are a lot of very approachable purple belt locks, and I actually have an example right in front of me. 9 to be exact. So what you see here are some duos from the Illinois Lock Company. And on this video, we're going to give away 9 of them. All you have to do to win one of these locks is subscribe if you haven't already, and then comment something on this video. It doesn't matter what you comment, but hopefully it's something helpful or constructive. And for those of you that enter but don't win one of our duos, you have a chance at winning one of these Mao trays that I've got laid out here. So we've got one blue, one red, and one black. The winners for the duos and the Mao trays will be announced on the 24th, just in a couple days, on Mentorship Monday number 5. And that way you have enough time with your new duo, new used duo, to get it picked on film. These locks are actually an exception to the gutting rule. Because they do not come apart, all you have to do is pick this thing on video, which makes it a very solid selection for this competition. So, summing up, if you want to win one of these duos or one of these Mao trays, all you got to do is be subscribed and comment on this video, and the results will be out on our Monday video on the 24th of June. If you want to win this silver bullet here, you got to put in some work, and pick and gut in one continuous take a purple belt lock or higher, and then submit the link to that video to our Gmail, which is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed OpAmp's video on making a practice lock. That's some information I really wish that I had had in the beginning. And I really hope you guys participate in the competition. Even if you don't get it done in time, you might have put in the work necessary to get yourself through a purple belt lock, which is a pretty big achievement in the grand scheme of things. Hope to see you all back tomorrow for Slaying Saturday. We've got Captain Hook and Correct Jeans picking the lock of the week in both of its variants, the Dom IX Twin Star and the Dom IX Saturn. If anything at all is confusing about this competition, please drop us a line at our Gmail, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can to resolve any kind of questions. Thanks for watching.